Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline Comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Creating beyond calculation, beyond politics, and beyond the big two. Welcome, Silverliners, to the wonderful world of Wednesday Wham. I'm joined by just about the full complement of the Wednesday Wham crew tonight. We have Barbara Kailberg, the Empress of the Inks, Rob Davis, the Paragon of Pencils, the Superior Skeptic, Aaron Humphreys, also known as Aaron the Contrarian. And we have our co-host, one of the Wizards of Wordplay, Scott Wakefield.
Good evening.
Hi, folks. How you doing tonight? Everybody good?
2 weeks in a row, Scott. Yes.
I know, man.
I'm here.
Better. Good to see you, buddy. We're going to talk tonight about romance in U.S. comics. And
you didn't even bring me any flowers.
In manga. Well, they're on the way. They're on the
way. Okay, well, as long as they get them.
It's
They
that
were
whole
still
supply
alive,
chain.
so I'm
It's
waiting.
that supply chain thing. It never works out.
I'm waiting to be serenaded, right?
Yeah,
Dean,
we'll
when
see.
the
We'll
singing
see if you're
starts.
lucky. Well, the deal here is romance comics have quite a history here in this country, and right now it's dominated by manga, as are so many other things in the comic publishing world. But I want to set the table first by giving just a little brief background to romance comics. Let's start with just the fact that Jack Kirby and Joe Simon started the first romance title in 1947, and it was called Young Romance.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a fringe title. It was actually quite a best-selling title. It was like they sold 1 million copies a month for a while. So this was a very popular genre. It did very well, as you could possibly expect. It reflected the culture of its day and was very much like the romance movies you may have seen late at night from the mid 20th century. You know, they can be a little bit syrupy, some corny stuff going on, but just
melodramatic.
yeah, overly melodramatic. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy tries to get girl back. You know, it's the same thing, but at varying stages. It became quite a popular genre and dominated for a while until some might say the mid 60s, when the superhero comics sort of came into their own via Marvel. I want to talk a little bit about why that happened, but first, before we go there, we have some shots of some covers from that era that we're going to screen share here. But I want to tell you who this is. John Romita Sr., who became really world famous for defining the look of Spider-Man, which he took over in the mid-60s. Really cut his teeth, so to speak, and drew a whole lot of these romance books.
Yes, we will come to your house for the Super Bowl.
Here's a cover from Young Love from back in the day, and you can kind of see the style sort of growing there as it moves more into the look that became Spider-Man later. Did you, Barb, I'm going to start throwing an open question to you first. Did you get into any of the romance stuff as you were getting in the industry, as far as reading it or wanting to draw it, or not?
I am a total nerd, so it did not appeal to me. Actually, I don't even read romance novels. They make me cringe. However, having said that, I can admit that I did do one about 5 years ago. I did Paul Kupperberg's Secret Romance.
Oh, wow.
And
cool.
There's one of the pages from it.
Nice.
My heart took wing.
That's awesome.
Don't worry, it'll come back.
Yes.
It always comes back.
And just as a curiosity, this is the same penciler that's going to take over Divinity.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this is one of the Patrick Kennedy brothers, and as you can see, lots of tears.
Oh yeah.
And lots of angst. So yes, so that was my romance, my big foray into the romance genre.
Well, as I was saying, and you can see from these covers, it's a lot of times it's the love triangle idea. It's obviously heartbroken. It's a sort of the Hallmark movie or Lifetime movie theme.
Please let me read this word balloon.
Okay, I'd love for you to do that.
Okay, so this is The Private Diary of Mary Robin, R.N. The love of a beautiful young nurse in a great metropolitan. Thank you. All right.
Neapolitan.
And so you can see that. Yes. You can see that the guy is kissing her. He's not very enthusiastic, apparently, because she's thinking to herself, Danny's not kissing me. I'm kissing him.
Look at the anguish on her face.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and it's a testament to Romita's skill to communicate that.
Right there.
With their faces.
Yeah.
It's funny because it was so weird. This was done. When was this done?
That particular one is probably 48, somewhere in there. I'll look it up. But anyway, go ahead.
Even though I think she's supposed to be hugging, it looks like maybe an X-ray. Doesn't it look like she's hugging a laptop?
Yeah, a tablet.
That's why I was thinking. I keep looking at that. Like, I know this is older.
It's a clipboard.
Is she hugging a laptop?
It's a clipboard.
Wow.
It's a clipboard. Okay.
No, she just read her emails and she closed it.
I know. I keep looking at it, going like
that's pretty prescient, right? Because this is probably 1950 is what
I guess it's just her and the internet for now.
I guess that's it. If we move forward a little bit, you start to see here we go. You start to see the style.
Looks like he's holding a laptop too.
Yeah, right.
Is this some sort of conspiracy?
It just keeps going, right?
We've got a Beatles haircut.
Yeah.
Look at the haircuts
and the beehive.
Read this one for us, Barb, because I love the way you're reading this. Is
okay. Our love story. So the gal with the beehive in the background is thinking to herself, when Jenny is the beautiful one, how can he love me? Raw emotion taken from real life.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
His other part can love all sorts of ladies. Don't feel bad.
Don't feel bad. Jason says happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, Jason. Vic says, Buenasera, Silverliners. Buenasera to you, my friend. What? Do we have a Floramonte flyby?
What?
We do indeed. Thomas Floramonte says, great to see everyone. Great to see you, Tommy. Looking good, my friend. Let's see. Delivery for Aaron. It's flowers on the way. That's what the florist told me anyway. Vic says, Charlton had some great looking romance books, pretty cheap too. Yes, they did. You know, I have to say though, what you're seeing in some of these covers just reminds me of early Spider-Man, and he's not even quite there yet. But you can see I can share this part with you. Having to draw scenes of just what we call talking heads, you have to come up with a lot of interesting ways to make that a compelling page. You have to use camera angles, you know, you have to use, you know, a lot of gestures with hands, with faces, with head movements, with poses, lighting. And I think that Romita being forced to do this because he admitted that he learned a lot of his tricks from Kirby because he was a big Captain America fan.
And 1965, by the way.
This one, good. Okay, so this is right before he jumps into Spider-Man to take over for after Steve Ditko. So you have to get the sense that he's trying to compete visually with all this, you know, action and explosive battles going on with the New Gods and Thor and, you know, the things that in Captain America, you know, and the things that Joe and Jack Kirby are drawing. And you go, okay, how do you make this interesting? He found a way. And I think once he gets to Spider-Man, he brought that to it. So I do want to come up with, I want to get your opinion on some things too. As we look at these, you can move on to the next one too, Barb. As we look at these, be thinking about, why do you think American comic books don't have a dedicated romance title? I'd really be curious as to that. Why you think that through. I want Barb to read this cover because this one's going to be awesome.
Oh, she's got the white go-go boots on.
Oh,
they
yeah.
both do. They both do. Yeah.
Check it.
Obligatory tears here.
I know, right? Pick it out.
Val, you're not going to study again tonight? Nick says he has the dreamiest boy just panting to meet you. I'm sorry, Beth. I must have my report finished by tomorrow morning. I'd give anything to join them. But while other girls can play at love, Valerie Parsons just hasn't the right. That's top. We'll leave it at there.
No, it's awesome though. And look at the drama, right? You have the troubled face, the tears in the foreground, you know, and then the couple going out to party, kind of, you know, looking at them. And it says it all. Again, a testament to Romita's brilliance. Infrafan says, I wonder how the stigma of comic books being what they are generally considered here in the States, and yet all ages and genders enjoy reading comics in other countries like Japan in various genres. Vic says, they're corny, but the art is so good. My men look like they've been beaten half to death, but in the romance books, their faces look so perfect. They do, don't they? A little bit on the Japanese approach. I think when we covered our manga show, we talked a little bit about how part of the reason we believe, that manga is doing so well is because it's a part of their culture in Japan. And it's just something that everyone reads. They go to the grocery store and they pick up their food and they pick up their manga right after. And for Fan also says a good story is a good story. Vic says, I like the guy's pants. Pretty
white
cool.
bell bottoms.
Yeah. How about those bell bottoms and the wide belts, y'all? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dr.
Mini
Bishop
skirts.
says, yeah, hail.
And I see
remember
this gal up here, right here, she looks a lot like MJ.
She does, doesn't she?
Yeah.
It's the face shape and the hair shape and just that standard. He had a little bit of that standard good leading man, standard bad guy, standard old crotchety guy, standard beautiful woman. You know what I mean? But he was so good at that, you know, and communicated the emotions that were necessary. Aaron, what do you take from this? Do you want to take a stab at the big burning question of the night? Not whether you're getting the flowers, because they are going to be there, but the real burning question: why American titles don't have dedicated romance books these days? What do you think?
I think the big one is the Comics Code Authority, and the way way Western people write romance stories. If you look at like romantic comedies and movies or romance stories, there's always the guy meets girl, but there's always the illusion or eventual illusion that we're going to get to the sexy part, right?
Right. Okay. Right.
And I think because of the Comics Code Authority, the most they could write would be teen romance at
Sure.
most.
Sure.
If you go above that
Mhm.
and start doing adult romance, you have to put in the basically consumption of the sexy time.
Sure.
Basically, and so I think because of that, and we are more uptight in this country about sex than violence. And so I think that was a sort of, it just, because of the Communist Code Authority, it was almost like made it very hard.
Do you,
and it's
do you
also
think
different
though?
between, oh, go
do you
ahead. It's
think-
also between the Japanese tell romance stories very different than Americans.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of the romance stuff that I've seen in Japan that's written for younger people, romance, are a lot of about, like, all these girls like this guy, and the guy's completely oblivious.
Right.
Or vice versa. There's that unrequited, like, they don't even, most manga romance stories I've seen never go into the relationship phase. Hardly ever. That's not, it's always
Wow.
the
It's all
chase.
UST,
It's the chase.
unresolved tension.
Yeah. unresolved-
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once you break that tension, but very rarely have I read any manga that deals with the actual relationship part.
But doesn't
and
the success of those said manga books in America then tell that our audience wants the same? The people who read
yeah,
the
but
manga,
primarily the people who are reading the Japanese romance books are teenage and young ladies who are
Correct.
still
So-
in the idea of they've not had a relationship, so they're about the chase, dating,
Okay.
getting the girl. Not saying that's bad, but that's kind of where they're at.
So
There's
you're
not
saying
many-
that wouldn't sell? It is selling here though. So why don't U.S. publishers just copy that template and make money?
I think in a way they have in some parts. I mean, Spider-Man has Mary Jane or whatever. But
Yeah.
even one, I mean, I think
Yeah.
even we said it on, I think it was the show when we did the other romance one, is like, even when Spider-Man got together with Mary Jane, they found a way to break them up. Because the tension, if they're going to get together, is much more, interesting than the idea of, like, them being in a relationship, how it works out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
most of the dramas, because I watch drama and romance, because I watch all genres, like movies and stuff, and the romance books I don't read as much, but the movies, we either have romantic comedies here,
Yeah.
where talks about I think sometimes reflects a little bit of our infantile approach to love and romance a little bit. That we're still that sort of not infantile and like childish, but more like
More juvenile? Is that what you're thinking?
because of the religious implications about what love is supposed to be. We don't
Sure.
go out. If we go to straight up drama, there's usually somebody cheating on somebody. It starts out very hot and heavy. There's a lot of sex. And somebody
Right.
cheats. It's like the same story. There's not a lot of in between. There's very rarely do you have any shows that just deal with the day-to-day life. There are some of just
Mhm.
being in a relationship.
Sure.
And so, I mean, even if you look at all of these covers, it's some girl in the out. She wants the attention of a guy. She can't get it.
Sure.
So from a woman's point of view,
Sure.
which that's
Tears.
totally fine. I mean, I'm sure it's aimed at women. But again, it's the unrequited love or whatever. But
Right.
once you give that to them,
Right.
it's
Infofan
over.
Steranko used to sneak the James Bond-esque romance in Nick Fury, and it was really effective.
Mhm.
Pointed out it had a tough time getting those types of scenarios printed. Vic agrees with Aaron. You get a comic with someone getting together like a fish when I was 8, but no Power Girl costume is vulgar. A child should be.
Yeah,
That's pretty
exactly.
funny. Vic says shouldn't, and he corrects it. I get that, but I still think that I'm really stunned that they don't try to go for the sort of what I would call grade school level, because as we know in our culture, it has matured. I mean, kids that are 13 today know a lot more than I did, at 13 back in the day. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you
You
look
know-
at a lot of young adult comics by Scholastic and stuff, some of them
Sure.
do talk about childhood crushes, stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
Um,
And so I know, I'm not sure. I guess part of the answer that I wanted to submit for discussion was that I think in America, we have blended the romance into our action adventure
Yes.
more. We have not looked at it as a separate genre since the mid 20th century. Since Romita, actually, when he took over Steve Ditko's Spider-Man, took over the art chores, one of the things he did was, and Stan gave him the green light to do this, he upped the ante on the romance between Peter and Mary Jane. And so that became a big part of the book, and it was immediately very popular. So when that started to happen, I think that everybody took notes and said, hey, we don't have to do just romance or just action adventure. We can blend them. And
well, there was always Lois and Clark too, you know.
Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
Well, look at one of the most famous
Reed and Stu
romances in the
Richards.
90s was Scully and Mulder. Like
Yeah.
once they got
Oh, yeah.
together, the show was kind of over.
Well,
They couldn't
that's
get
the
together.
same. That's the same thing that happened with Moonlighting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
It,
Bruce
it was
Willis and
one
stuff, yeah.
long series of will they, won't they get together, and then finally they got together, and everybody's like, "Meh, I'm not going to."
Castle.
Because the tension's over.
With Nathan Fillion. Castle was
Yes,
the same.
Castle.
Mhm. Same way.
Okay.
Finally did get together.
Yeah, I want a quick question,
Yeah,
and
please,
I
Scott,
have
please.
almost zero answers for all of this tonight.
Sure,
For this
sure.
huge question.
Have
that
you ever
we're-
had
we're
answers before?
delving- Never. I can't think of one.
Okay, so we
And
agree on this.
Go through the archives. You won't find a single point of
I
useful
can't count how many
information. that
times
comes out of my mouth.
Scott's always like, "Why are you asking me? I don't know
I
anything."
don't- I'm just here. But you said the comics code. I agree with that. With what's allowed in comics, but I also would think about just basic literature as far as who consumes what. And coming from and Barb said from a female perspective, she hates all the mushy stuff in the romance novels.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
and
I
from
can't
the
even
male
watch kissing on TV.
yeah, from the male perspective, I never like when the romance gets too much in any story, makes me want to vomit. So, Lord of the Rings movie, it took Arwen and Aragorn, their romance to the forefront in the movie, and I'm like, they're just playing to the female audience. So what I'm wondering is like, what else? There's got to be something else culturally too, because we don't.
I'm not your typical female though, so don't take
I know. Oh, I know.
me as an
No,
example.
but
How do we know that? I mean,
you're on the same page as far as like you don't. It doesn't help it. You don't want it in the story.
Then
But
why are soap operas so?
well, that I don't
popular?
think like why. So what I'm getting at is like why generally the male or that demographic doesn't want it, and why is that in America? Why is that in a Western culture thing? We'll take a relationship. We want Captain Picard and Beverly Crusher to be moony-eyed, and we want Mary Jane, Peter, and we want Tony Stark and Pepper, but only to a point. Because after that, men aren't watching the Hallmark Channel or reading the Harlequin novels.
I'd rather poke a needle in my eyes and watch the soap opera.
Yeah.
So you're saying that as far as the romance, it can be included, but it shouldn't dominate. So it's a beeline. It's a B.
Right, but why? Yeah, why? Like, is it like the very core of
no? I think
American
I
man.
think it has to do with. I know this sounds a bad word. Sorry, internet. Gender and what they're marketed towards, and I think that's been. There's also that can sometimes even another bad word go into the religious viewpoints of what men and women should be, and they cater to them. Most women, from what I've got psychologically, are more interested in everything up to the physical part.
Yeah.
And sometimes men are unfortunately more interested in the physical part. This is why the physical part is more popular with men, and the romance books, the chase to the physical is more popular with women.
Basic biology, yep.
And also, since seeing is bad and in your head is okay, this way romance novels can get as nasty as you can possibly imagine, but since it's all words, it doesn't count as obscene. It only counts as obscene if it's physical pictures or video. And since men are more visual, this is where men lose the thing. So when men look at visual things, that's bad. Because you have to represent something. Women don't care about that, but they can read and it's in their head, and that's okay. So and I'm not saying this is good or bad in one way. I'm saying men are visual creatures. We're genetically bred to be hunters. We're more visually acute. Women are more empathetic, so they're more in tune, I guess you could say, with their feelings, whether you believe that to be the complete dichotomy of men and women. This is what the marketing assumes and stuff. And it's been, you ask a woman, what turns them on? Well, love, romance leading up to it. And if you ask a man what turns them on, well, you're going to get pretty much right. So the same answer. So I think that happens. And since predominantly comics skewed more to a men's fantasy, especially at the advent of superheroes.
Sure.
And we couldn't show what men want in the romance department because that's illegal. Romance was out the door because men didn't hear about the move up to it.
Right. Infrafan says, I think publishers are a big gatekeeper for that as well. It's telling an audience what
they don't
want. That's exactly part of it. Like DC or Marvel could get pitched the greatest love story ever told by the top artists and writers, and it wouldn't.
It wouldn't get printed.
Yeah,
it's not that. Yeah.
Listen, soap operas are great to make fun of. Yes, they are great to make fun of.
But the funny thing is romance is wanted. I mean, look at Strangers in Paradise. Love and Rockets is another one. Romance comics, there is an audience for it.
Yes.
It's just the big two. Unfortunately, whether you like Marvel, DC or not, they have really dominated the Western market, much to Sharon and others. Yeah. And people say, like, well, there's lots of independent comics. You're right. I go into a comic store, there are lots of independent comics. But the majority of sales go to Marvel and DC, and most people think of comics think of those two. They think of superheroes. So the most we get is superhero romance, which is almost fetishistic on its core. Because, I mean, it's people, I mean, you can almost, a lot of people have written, I mean, look at Watchmen, even talked about that, mostly in the movie, about, they were okay. In other words, in the Watchmen movie, when they were out of costume, these two couples really couldn't get it on. And then when they were in costume, they could get it on. Like, yeah, that's the fetish side of dressing up. It's, So.
One of the things I've noticed, though, and, I think it's fair to say that in the last couple of decades, the female audience has grown for superhero comics beyond what it was.
So.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say that, Barb? So
hugely, I hang out on Tumblr.
A lot of that is because of the movies and the celebrity fandom, but I think a lot of it also is the fact that X-Men has a lot of soap opera in it. It always has. And I'll use that as an example. The love triangle between Wolverine and Jean Grey and Cyclops and all that. That's always kind of been there. Again, to Aaron's
started out with Angel as the other.
You're right. Yes.
That's right.
The
pretty boy.
The pretty boy. Right.
Exactly.
The love affairs among the X-Men, and then you've got classic characters. Barb, you've got some of these that you can share with us of the sort of the legacy characters, I like to call them. Batman and Catwoman. The love that can't be because of who they are and what they do individually. So there you have a soap opera tension that works within the context of
unrequited love. Yeah.
Yes,
right.
And the action adventure. So I think what we're sort of stumbling into as a discovery here is that romance does still exist, but it's been folded into the action adventure, and we only explore it to an acceptable point that's been made acceptable by repetition and culture and market. The love affair between Spidey and Mary Jane is at the core of Spider-Man's character. I believe it wouldn't be the same book without the love affair.
One of the big romance stories I read growing up with Barbara DeGruby, ElfQuest. ElfQuest started out as a huge romance story, and that's what made it so unique. Also, the other superhero story that really pushed romance but didn't live long was Elementals. The Elementals used to do romance. They actually had romance like issues and stuff, and then the series didn't last.
Speaking of that, Vic asked, so when is there going to be a Cat and Mouse purely romance issue?
You mean the 18+ issue?
Mouse is underage at the moment, so let's hold off on that for
once
a couple
she
of
grows
years.
up a little bit. Once she grows, Infrafan also says Wolverine, Jean. Yeah.
Now apparently, I hear they're in an open relationship, so they've solved the whole Cyclops, Jean Grey.
Oh, is that how that's working?
Wolverine,
okay,
I guess. Portland
right.
to the rescue, right? Oh, we'll solve that, right?
Here's one for you: the Vision and Scarlet
These
Witch.
guys are doomed. I mean, because
who gets married in their costumes? Nerds. Look at that.
Not always
right?
synthesoid.
Well, Vision can't help it, can he?
I know. It's the whole AI thing. We should do an episode on that too. But to keep it in the romance world, I mean, he's going to live forever, right? And she's going to get old and die unless she uses magic to stay young.
Yeah.
Well, she's always also very unstable.
Yeah, I know.
So, you
Yeah,
know,
Who in the
so-
comic book world is stable? Name me one stable.
Is there? I mean,
Here's
even
what I wanna
Professor
know.
Xavier went out into space and got married to an alien princess.
Couldn't Vision change his appearance to appear
Sure.
normal when he? I wonder if
Yeah.
he could change
Oh, yeah.
anything else.
I'm
you
sure.
always wonder that too.
There's probably a
There's
lot
a
of
reason why the
phantom
lady's
out
like,
there
"I
for
should've
you,
got him."
Barb. You wanna
He doesn't even require batteries.
There you go. There you go.
Exactly.
I think we got another one too. I think Black Panther Storm. Yes, Black Panther Storm.
Are they still together in the comics? I know they
I
were
don't think
together.
so. I don't
Okay.
think so. But when they were together, it was like a huge deal. It was a natural pair.
It seemed like it because
Um,
Storm. It was Forge. She was really
Yeah.
they were using the Forge. Yeah.
right. And so let's see. Vic says romance works, but 22 pages of mushy crap would make someone want to jump out a window. Yeah, I think.
Well, no, I know what I'm sending to Vic.
Yeah,
People just write their Christmas lists, don't they?
I know, right? They just tell you. In terms of that, yeah, it has its place, but again, proportionate. And again, we have to play that advocacy of, chicken and egg. The thing, right? Is the market running that, or is somebody running the market?
Hey guys, I got to bounce for just a second. I'll
Okay.
hopefully be back.
Okay.
Okay. See you in a minute.
I think also there's an entire genre in Japan. The Sojo is young girl romance.
Right.
I think there's other, but they really do split it. The other thing is, I think Japanese are more accepting of the hentai side.
Yeah.
Yes,
manga
yes,
too,
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Sure.
which we are not, and so they kind of have some of these romance
And you
books
should see the
really blur the
hentai.
line between the physical and the mental.
You should
I
see
mean,
the
there's been a
hentai
lot
on
where I'm like, oh,
Tumblr.
the romance, and they get pretty heavy on the scene. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Vic says, listen, it doesn't have to be Bobby for it. I want to see the demons dating life. We're back to cat and mouse. He wants to see the demons dating life.
Well, he
Demon
does
is
have three
actually
tails,
not a
so.
demon.
Oh,
he's
yes.
a gentle
Prehensile tails.
Isn't he supposed
Yeah.
to be like a vet?
Yeah, he's
Like
a
a
vet. He's a
Okay.
mild-mannered veterinarian who has some sort of magical curse on him that hasn't been revealed yet by Rob.
Okay, Aaron, what's the appeal of this particular My Dress Up Darling? Parental
No.
advisory, explicit
Do you know about that one?
content.
No, I have not. But I could guess a lot of times the Japanese will take
It's actually about a guy
romance and
who
turn them on their head.
It's about a guy
Um,
who actually is a tailor, and he's made fun of in high school because he's great at making costumes. And this
Yeah.
girl is a cosplay girl, and they become an item.
Oh, is
Right.
that what it's about?
That's what's
They-
about. Yeah, read
The
lore.
Japanese love mismatching more than
Mhm.
Americans. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, it does.
there's a lot of like there was one I have a friend who's really Summer, my friend Summer is really into romance manga and has talked to me about a few and showed me a few. And another trope that goes who's the mismatching a business guy who's really into a cosplay girl. Two people that meet from two different worlds, opposites
Right.
attract. The Japanese are really and there's something funny. I mean, because then you both can play on the fish out of water with each
Sure.
each
Yeah.
person's world or whatever. So there's humor in it.
I do
A lot.
notice that this cover looks so innocent and cute, and then you read down here in the bottom here it says explicit content.
A lot of them have that. A lot of them
Yeah.
really blur the line. And then a lot of even the romance ones are not afraid to show explicit scenes.
Sure. My love
And
mixed
so
up.
there's also the other thing that Japanese manga is really good is embracing homosexual romance, which
Yeah.
Oh
American
yeah, and
comics
that
have
is
not done
huge on
at
Tumblr.
all.
There,
Right.
you said something about
So-
you said something before about a lot more women coming into comics,
Yes.
and a lot of the women readers on Tumblr of comics are pairing up the male superheroes together,
Mhm.
and that's what their wish is to see.
I would
Well, don't
probably
you have
say
the Hulkling and Wiccan with the Teen Titans, and you've got some other ones too. Midnighter, I think.
but they're in a relationship. Again, they're not chasing. They're in a relationship.
they're in a
This
relationship.
is-
Right. I got
most of the girls I've known that have started out in manga are usually reading gay romance manga. That's the
Okay.
majority of them. Some read straight, but it's mostly, and it's just I don't know, ladies like that, and I think it's the same thing about. I mean, you're saying they pair up the guys. Well, I mean, the guys
They write
pair
fan
up the
fiction
girls.
about,
Yeah.
Well, guys pair up the
Captain
girls,
America and
right?
Iron Man or whatever.
Sure.
Or
So
Captain and
now
Bucky
this
or
one is
whatever.
extremely popular as well. The Horimia.
I'm not
it
sure. I've never
was
heard of that.
it's a hugely popular romance anime adaptation as well, and it's she's a popular honor student with a secret home life packed with responsibility in raising her adorable little brother, but he's an introverted, all but invisible, middle of the road average student with a secret private life as a tattooed and pierced street punk. So,
Right.
again, it's the two complete opposites.
It's
coming
also
together.
I know this is also to be bad. Nothing against the Japanese per se, because I have nothing against them, but they usually do teenage romance is usually the
Sure.
heavier one.
Yeah.
And in Japan, there's sometimes a lot of fetishization about underage people
Yeah.
that sometimes
Yeah.
plays into this a little
Yeah.
bit. So I think because I've even had anime I've watched that's not romantic at all
Mhm.
that has started doing that. So I'm like, oh, okay, little cut, but that's Western traditions versus Eastern. So
Sure.
that's a whole nother conversation. But
Right.
majority of the romances you're going to find are teenage or high school. Very rarely I've seen romance outside of high school. The romance series, my friend Summer watches a lot of Korean dramas.
Mhm.
They are more adult. So like TV is more adult, but this is Korea too.
But yeah.
But again, the comics are more like teenage stuff and
Mhm.
stuff. And again, and most of the teenage ones are not explicit, but they're let's just say the Japanese schoolgirl uniform is very
Yep.
popular.
Sailor Moon, people. Sailor
Yep.
Moon, for those who
Dean,
remember.
what was this one about? Do you have the write up on that one?
I love mix-up. Infrafan, I'll look it up here. Infrafan says, how did
Aaron become the fit? I like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's what it is. So this particular one,
I learned by watching you, Emperor fan.
yeah, it's a love triangle. It's one person trying to choose between two others. This funny and
Yeah,
sweet
love
romance,
triangle.
high school kids crushing on each other, is proud of how silly and charming it is, the writer says. Here you have two boys and a girl. The girl likes one, but doesn't like the other, and the other, of course, likes her. They're through a clumsy bit of communication. One believes that it is the other who likes him, so it's confusion of situation. It's crushes that are unrequited, and it gets just crazy from there. Having never crushed on anyone before, one of them thinks he might be gay. He begins to form a strong attraction, and he still thinks he has a crush on him. So one boy thinks the other boy has a crush on him. So it's mixed up. So it's my love mix up. So you have, the awkward sort of sitcom approach. This comedy, a situational comedy. Vic says there are also ones that ship the Turtle Brothers together. Okay. I don't know much. Oh, the Turtles. Okay. Let's see.
I did
mix up looks
brain
like a
bleach.
classic MGM romance movie. Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, really does.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, really, if they wanted to try it here and appeal to a younger audience, it'd be interesting to see if they did a high school romance movie that wasn't vulgar, that was PG-13, that didn't have to go into any of that realm, that adult realm, and just see if it would even. I don't know if it would sell here or not because of what you previously stated.
I think depending on how you do it, I think.
Yeah.
For one thing, I think it would have to be launched by a major publisher.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But there are romance comics out there, but again, they're, like you said, they're mixed into other genres. So not a genre in and of itself. There's superhero romance, there's romance, there's sci-fi, but like Elf Course is a fantasy book. The whole thing, especially the first 4 volumes, is just one huge romance book.
Well, yeah, and the really interesting twist to that was that they have something called recognition, where you eyes meet eyes, and you have a soul bond, and you're meant to be with that person. And Lita rejected that.
Right, and she couldn't, and that's what was so, and that was one that actually did talk about eventually, their relationship, because they got together, I think by the second book. Was it the second book?
She was very snobbish about it, and she refused to mate with a barbarian.
Who was the guy she was promised to?
Cutter. Oh, Rayak? Yeah,
Rayak,
she was promised to Rayak, and then when Cutter arrived, there was recognition, and she was repulsed by him. And at first, so she rejected it, and they were both getting sick from it. So that was a whole plot,
Yeah, it
of
was.
them rejecting the romance. He wanted her, she didn't want him.
Right.
But the
Vic says
It-
we
it
couldn't
just-
do it in single issues because my generation hates that floppy format for some reason.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out about that generation's love for graphic novels. I think part of it is the fact that today we have shows and series that are dropping all at once and you can binge watch.
Yeah, the
I
binge
think
watch
binge,
thing.
but I
yeah.
think there's also that. I mean, look at the name. It's not called collected comic books; they're called graphic novels. Americans
correct.
still to this day, even with the
Yes,
animation,
the
have that
binge
like,
watching.
oh my god, it's for kids.
I think binge watching a show when it drops is coming to an end.
I think it
And
is.
the reason I say that is because the streaming services have discovered that if they're going to drop every episode in one big chunk,
They're going to go through their material like that.
well, not only that, but people are checking out their 30-day free trial and then binge watching the show, and then they're not getting their money.
Exactly.
So now they are having to stretch them out, drop them once a week, so that they get the people
I know, which
to
is
subscribe.
funny. It's like welcome back to our world, right? We had to wait every few weeks for an episode, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's funny. I think it's weird when America, and especially mostly West Americans, have a big thing about comic books is for kids. I'm like, yes, but almost probably 70% of all the stuff you watch online on TV
No, right.
is based on a comic book. Even stuff you wouldn't think, like Road to Perdition and other stuff, is all based on comic books. And I tell people, they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, Ghost World. I mean, there's other ones.
Walking Dead,
yeah, all of them, and they're just like, oh, but I don't read comic books. I had one person who loved the Sin City movie, and I'm like, we should read the comic. No, I don't read comics. Like, we just literally watched the comic in the screen. That was
so. Where do you
verbatim.
think that comes from? Where do you think that prejudice comes from? I'm
The
curious.
Comics Code Authority, man. I really
Yeah,
think
but that
we
was
did
like
it this
70 years ago, dude. It's got to be something else.
Yeah,
man.
but even though it's 70 years ago, it's been so reinforced, and the big two have reinforced it so well. I mean, look at all not even to get off topic, but look at all the fight against censorship we had in the 90s and 80s. I mean, even look what Frank Miller did with Sin City. I mean, he was fighting censorship even on that,
Right.
and that stuff is like so, abstract and, and it's telling. But I remember him fighting censorship. I remember other people fighting censorship. I mean, we had remember the fund that if comic book stores accidentally sold bad things, that they put the stores under, so they had a legal defense fund. You had the comics legal defense.
I remember. Of course.
All of that stuff is born of the Comics Code Authority.
Fund.
It's all, and we did it to ourselves. We did the Comics Code Authority to ourselves, and we have cemented that into hopefully it outgrow over generations. But majority of people look at comics and they're for kids,
Mostly.
Disney has done this a lot of damage too, because Disney has forced all animation is for kids, and animation looks like comics, of course. Disney has also been a big one that has done it.
Vic says, I'm so happy I was born post-code. Yeah.
Yes.
I am too,
yes.
actually.
You don't get to
I
deal
think-
with the pains of.
Right. I think now, though, we've got this sort of open marketplace now where you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. I've never
It's the wild, wild west of comics.
It really is.
But the rut is still there. We're still running that rut.
Yeah.
In
That's
terms
the
of,
problem.
you mean
The
perception rut?
Well, it's not just that. It's inertia, more or less.
Oh,
We've
okay.
been going down this path,
Right.
and to turn, it's like a big battleship. It takes a long time to turn it. So, and that's what we're going through right now. We've got all these things pushing the edges and trying to get us to change. But that ship is still headed down
slowly.
the same
We need to
direction.
sink the battleship and then
There's
you know,
always also
I'm
been
ready.
that sort of underground thing about comics too, like the Grindhouse Underground. And now especially on Kickstarter with all the booby books that are like just make tons of money, you finally have the bad girl craze of the 90s come full circle on the Kickstarter, where they finally now we can just take off the censorship and go ballistic. So there was a little bit what I remember when the Comics Code Authority dropped, people like, yay, and then there were a lot of people in comics where you could see this wow, these guys are kind of repressed guys. They're just going straight. They're not even being nuanced. They're just going straight into it. All right.
Straight into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and so there was a lot. I was reading a lot of stuff where it almost seemed to like, we could be offensive and do bad stuff because we can now, so let's just do it without any thought to it. Does it enhance the story or not? Video games went through the same thing.
So, who cares about the plot? Let's put 2 Band-Aids and a cork on her and call it good.
And there you go.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, and you know, DC still has like their Black Label, and things are they're sort of self-coded now, or self-censored in terms of, you can tell usually from the cover, you'll see Black Label, or you'll see for mature readership, or the stores will put mature reader stuff here, and then your average PG-13 stuff here, and then the kids stuff over here. So I've seen a lot more of that. You know,
I still think it's a catch-22 by putting the label on there that this is for mature audiences. You are going to immediately start attracting that younger audience. It is a catch-22.
Yeah,
it's like, how do you keep them out? But mature audience, like, really? Why? And they're gonna, so you know.
And for Fan Says, I'm perplexed how video games started the same way, and now it's the most profitable industry. Our comics
because video games hit a dopamine when you get a reward. Video games are task based, so if you're doing a task and you hit the reward, it's an immediate dopamine hit. Comic books are engaging. They engage you. You have to interact with them to read them, so there's a sense of interaction when you read a comic book, but they're not necessarily hitting that dopamine hit like video games. Video games have, and they've done studies on this. This is why this video game addiction is not comic book addiction. There really should be. There really should be, but there's not.
We're going to do the first comic book that makes.
I don't know. I think I'm hooked.
I know, me too,
my
right?
whole life, man. So speaking of that, we've got a Kickstarter happening right now. Barb, talk to us about the Kickstarter.
I don't know. They're not my books.
Town. It's Friar Rush. It's two comics in one Kickstarter. You can check us out.
No, I do know. Friar Rush is kind of a horror story. And Cape Town is new comic book heroes, and they're both fantastic. I highly recommend them.
You can get the first 2 issues of Friar Rush and complete the series. That was the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Aaron, talk about your
Friar Rush. What I remember, like it's been a minute since I've worked on Friar Rush, but yeah, it was a 3-issue series.
Okay.
I liked Friar Rush. I know there's a metal concert in this, or
there's a metal concert, and it's cool. And you know, I did a cover for Friar Rush, but I don't know if I can reveal it.
Well, I'll read you what the issue number 3 is about, okay? It's whispered legends and epic poems tell of Friar Rush's seductions of men and women of the cloth. But what if he were unleashed on the modern era with a devilish plot to devastate masses?
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Journalist Jake McGlover finds himself partnered with the immortal Seraph, cursed victim of the Friar's manipulations in a race against time, as Friar Rush launches his dark plans in of course, New Orleans. Yes. You know, Friar Rush would be a good crossover with.
I know, wouldn't it be fun?
Cat and Mouse. Yes.
And then tell us a little bit about Cape Town now.
Okay, Capernaum, USA, where everyone wants to dress up like a superhero. A few even had superpowers until they publicly hung up their capes for good. Now, years later, 2 new heroes arrive on the scene. Do Seismic and Recon herald a new age of heroes, and can they put their differences aside long enough to find out if the capes retired or if the reasons are more sinister? Ooh. This is the first issue of Cape Town. It looks awesome, and I can't wait to read it. I have read Friar Rush, so I was kidding when I said I didn't know anything about it. I love the fact that they've covered the long time period in Friar Rush, and they're bringing it now to this.
Finally,
yeah. We've
That's
got rewards.
Cool. Yeah, rewards in there. What I love about it is you have something for everybody with our books. You know, there you are, right there. Yeah, right there. It was kind of fun. I did kind of a little Keanu riff on the main character there in the front, if you notice.
Oh, is that why you were talking about the Berserk comic?
That was why. No, actually, it wasn't. But yeah, I threw that in there. But no, I like the fact that you've got your, vampire hunting story, and then you've got your superhero capes story, but it's, we've got a little bit of everything, and this is the time when we can break out and do new things and try to get people as excited about comics. How do you get that dopamine going, Aaron? That's what I'm saying. It's the excitement of the page, man.
Apparently, I've found that Bear Press work wonders in that department.
Yeah, it does happen.
Unfortunately,
I broke into a booby book.
I am amazed the amount of money between those two. It blows me away.
I used to work on Xenophile.
Vic says, "Yeah, I'm hooked. I walked 4 miles just to buy one."
I think the best thing. I think the back issue thing is the best. I mean, look at those back issues. So if you like this series, you can go in and get all the Trumps. I mean, the Trumps are there. All the Fire Rushes. You can get the first few Twilight White. So there's a lot of stuff. These Kickstarters not are just there to launch the issues we're doing, but is to also be able to go back in and complete your collection of other stuff we have as well.
That's a good point. Barb, also take a moment or two, talk to us about, upcoming romance potential in Divinity. I mean, you've got adult characters there. It's not just Divinity.
Yeah, that's going to be on the back burner for a while. Okay. I know that there's going to be some tension between Olivia and Zach, but whether that's going to be sexual tension or something happened in Afghanistan. And we are not exposed yet to what exactly that was that raises attention to it. Was it something sexual? Was it something duty related? What happened between them? You won't find that out for a while. And right now they're just too busy trying to survive to actually think about romance. And on top of that, and I'm going to drop a bombshell here for everybody. Yeah, Olivia is bisexual. So,
well, there you go.
She likes bicycles like the rest of us?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
awesome.
That might confuse Zach a bit.
Yeah. Well, that means you're going to bring in maybe another leading character, possibly.
Okay. Possibly.
Right.
We do our interest introduced to a new character in the first issue of the second arc, the issue number 5.
Okay. And you've got a new artist, right?
Issue number 4, I have a new artist. Okay. Alex went on to bigger and better things.
Would you say to her?
Well, we knew he would. I mean, he would. He had a lot of self-doubt, I think, but he's got a lot of talent, and he's going to go.
Now that Vic has said that, he's going to get nothing but romance comics to draw.
That's right. Vic says,
"Sorry, dude.
You got to do." So you're going to be drawing high school my high school romance, My Chemical Romance. We got confirmation for the second miniseries. Which miniseries is he?
Yeah. Oh, Divinity. Yes.
Good.
It's already been plotted out. So I'm looking forward to that. But really, Divinity is not going to have an emphasis on romance at all because they're too busy trying to stay ahead of everybody else, and there might be
because Divinity is underage.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
she could get a crush though.
That's what I'm thinking. She get a childhood crush on somebody.
Yeah.
You never know.
That could be an interesting plot.
Yeah, there might be some flirting, But
man, would you really want to date Divinity? I mean, think of it this way: if she was older and she could bring people back from the dead, like they say, if you lipped off to her, she could just kill you and then bring you back, and you've learned your lesson, haven't you? Like being married to Divinity. Wow.
Think of it this way, though.
Talk about domestic abuse. She would just keep resurrecting you. Like, okay, that's it. I'm tired of you.
Think of it this way too. If she can manipulate how you're feeling.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless there. Vic says survival is more important than feelings.
That's right.
True.
That's right. Hierarchy of needs there, bringing it all back around.
That's right.
What are you working on? Tell us a little bit about Noct. How's progress
still working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so each issue. That's my Barbarian. I think I've showed
You have. We really talked a lot about the lighting in that one shot you did show us.
I'm on working on page 5 now.
Awesome.
And every issue is its own story. So it's heavily based on like the way Robert E. Howard told Conan. Back in the old serial life where they told science fiction short stories that you can read any Conan story out of order and it just all worked. I really like that because I'm trying to get away from because I've run into this problem myself. And I've had other people have done the single story issues where you come and you see a series, oh, that looks cool, but they only have issue 3. Well, I don't want to start at issue 3.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that you can lose a lot of sales if you can't get the whole thing or something there. So none of my issues would be numbered. You can pick any one up in any order. That's the idea. And I've actually started liking shorter stories in comics because I feel like you get a chance to check it out, and if you like it, you can just stick with that one and stuff. But I think the thing is, a lot of short stories done in anthologies, but I think anthologies shorten it to like 10 pages.
Yeah.
And I think 24 pages is perfect for, like, you can tell a complete story. It depends on what kind of story you're telling. I mean, Usagi Yojimbo, I think, in his entire run was doing single story. I think you could pretty much pick up any Usagi Yojimbo book and read it, and it just you can read them out of order, and it totally works. And so there's been people that have done that, and I want to try that just so I don't miss sales. And people are like, that's issue 4. I don't want to start at issue 4. So just
that's a good move. I want to see how it does. I'd like you to. Are you going to follow up on if it does well? Obviously, you'll do another one.
There'll be more. And I have like a simple backstory for the character, but I mean, it's just, it really is. I like to draw Halloween type stuff, and I like fantasy and barbarian.
Yeah, your style works in that sort of thing.
It really does.
Yeah,
well.
so I just mix it together.
I'm currently inking Cat and Mouse number 4.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Pages for that. We got to get that wrapped
Finally
up.
Finally gonna see it done. It's got like what, 6 more pages.
Yeah.
So because I had to go back and reread. I know, like Dean, you did the first issue.
I did the first one and part of the second one.
The second one.
Yeah. That's. I'm looking forward to seeing how that all wraps up. Rob, you want to plug something you're working on before we close out here tonight?
I am working on Boston Bombers. I'm at page 22 of, I believe it's 29 pages. So we got that going on. I'm just now erasing the pencil lines from this page. I just finished.
Very cool.
Hey, Rob, I have a
29
question
pages.
for
I thought most books have to end on an even number, or is it an odd number?
Oh, you put a pen up in, or you can
you can do whatever.
You can do like
or
I think
an
at the
ad.
end.
Yeah.
It's just so weird when I hear odd number. I'm like, wait a minute, So
yeah.
Hey, Rob, I have a question for you. When you finish up an issue, do you like take break for a few days just to recharge before you jump back in again?
It
you
depends.
just keep going.
Sometimes the energy's there and I want to drag it into the next issue, so I'll start right in. It just depends.
Yeah.
But I don't do thumbnails on more than one issue at a time. So I've got that as the break. I have to sit down and read the next script, do the thumbnails, and that's the break between doing what I'm doing here and then doing the next issue. I've got that break of doing the thumbnails, thinking in a slightly different way, thinking more overall storytelling.
Generally, I rarely take breaks. I have taken some here or there, but I'm like you, Rob. I think the thumbnail process is the break between the drawing.
Yeah,
and I only do one thumbnail series. Even in my own series, only stick to one. Generally, because I'll get caught up in that, so you just need to focus and stay on target, as they say, right?
Stay on target. In fact, we got to stay on our target as well. It's time to say what we like to say at the end of our broadcast. We appreciate everybody watching, and make mine
Silverline.
I'm April Hunter. Make mine Silverline.
All right.